Three black SUVs pull up to a modest apartment building in Seattle. The doors open in unison, and men in expensive suits step out, their faces familiar to anyone who follows tech news. Silicon Valley royalty. They approach apartment 304 with purpose. Inside, Marcus Johnson freezes as he recognizes the faces on his security camera feed. The same tech giants who had once mocked his ideas, called him naive, and claimed his vision was commercially unviable. Now they're at his doorstep, not with cease and desist orders, but with something he never expected. A plea for help. The online empires they built are crumbling, and the solution they rejected years ago might be their only salvation. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from and what you think will happen next. And if you want more stories that touch the light within your heart, like this video, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Welcome to In the Heartlight. Let's begin. 5 years earlier, 16-year-old Marcus Johnson hunched over his laptop in Pinecrest Academy's cafeteria, his fingers dancing across the keyboard. Lines of code reflected in his glasses as he perfected an algorithm that could identify patterns of harassment in online communications. Most kids his age were focused on the latest video games or social media trends, but Marcus had always been different. "Still working on that anti-bullying program?" asked Layla, sliding her lunch tray beside him. She was one of his few friends at Pinecrest, a school known more for its championship football team than its academic achievements. "Almost done with the core functions," Marcus replied without looking up. "I think it can really help make things better around here." Marcus had grown up in a working-class neighborhood with parents who worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. His father, a former Navy engineer, had taught him the importance of integrity and standing up for what's right. His mother, a nurse, showed him daily what compassion in action looked like. From them, he inherited both technical aptitude and a strong moral compass. Pinecrest Academy should have been a place of opportunity, but beneath its polished exterior lurked a toxic culture. The children of wealthy donors and star athletes operated with impunity. Racist jokes circulated openly on school message boards. Female students endured daily harassment, ranging from unwelcome comments to having their achievements diminished. The administration turned a blind eye to these problems, prioritizing the school's reputation and donor relationships over student welfare. Teachers who tried to address these issues found themselves sidelined or pressured to leave. Marcus was neither the strongest nor the most popular student, but he possessed something more valuable: the combination of technical skill and moral courage. Where others saw insurmountable social hierarchies, he saw broken systems that could be fixed with the right tools. "You really think a computer program can change how people behave?" Layla asked skeptically. Marcus finally looked up from his screen. "No, but it can shine a light on what's happening, and things that grow in the dark can't survive in the light." Little did he know that his conviction would soon be tested in ways he never imagined, setting him on a collision course with the school's most powerful figures. The Tuesday afternoon that changed everything began like any other. Marcus was walking to his advanced computer science class when he heard a commotion in the hallway. A crowd had gathered, their phones raised high, recording instead of helping. At the center stood Emma Chen, a brilliant junior who had recently published a piece in the school newspaper about gender discrimination in AP Science courses. Surrounding her were three football players, led by Tyler Mitchell, son of the school board president. "Maybe if you spent more time on your appearance, instead of trying to prove you're smarter than everyone, guys might actually like you," Tyler was saying, his friends laughing as Emma clutched her books to her chest. "Your statistics were wrong anyway," another player added. "Girls don't take physics because they'd rather take home ESC. It's biology." Emma's face remained composed, but Marcus saw her hands trembling. The surrounding students were either laughing or pretending not to notice, The unspoken rule at Pinecrest: don't interfere with Tyler and his crew. Something snapped in Marcus. He pushed through the crowd, placing himself between Emma and her tormentors. "Back off, Tyler," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. Tyler's expression shifted from surprise to amusement. "Look who it is. The scholarship charity case. What are you gonna do, code me to death?" "No," Marcus replied calmly. "But I am recording this, and I'm pretty sure Stanford wouldn't be impressed with this kind of behavior from an applicant." He held up his phone, which was indeed recording. Tyler's face darkened, but a teacher rounded the corner, and the moment passed. The crowd dispersed, but not before Tyler whispered, "This isn't over, Johnson." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. The incident kept replaying in his mind, not just what happened to Emma, but how many students stood by, recording but not intervening. How many incidents like this occurred daily without anyone documenting them? How many students suffered in silence? By morning, he had repurposed his harassment detection algorithm into something more immediate: an anonymous reporting system where students could document incidents of bullying, racism, and misogyny at Pinecrest. The platform allowed them to upload evidence, screenshots, recordings, written accounts, and identified patterns of behavior over time. He called it Lighthouse because its purpose was to illuminate what had long been hidden. Within a week, he quietly shared access with trusted classmates, including Emma, who had become a reluctant ally after the hallway incident. "This won't stop them," she warned. "Maybe not immediately," Marcus admitted. "But patterns don't lie. And when there's enough evidence that can't be dismissed as isolated incidents, things will have to change." What Marcus didn't anticipate was how quickly Lighthouse would spread through the student body, or how fiercely the school's power structures would fight to extinguish it. By the end of the month, over half the student body had accessed Lighthouse. The platform's anonymous nature emboldened those who had previously remained silent. Reports flooded in: screenshots of racist group chats, recordings of misogynistic comments from teachers, documentation of how discipline was applied unequally across different student groups. Marcus had designed the system carefully. It wasn't a wall of shame. Names were redacted, and the focus was on patterns rather than individuals. But anyone mentioned in reports received anonymous notifications that their behavior had been documented, with links to resources about respectful communication. The first signs of change were subtle. Certain phrases disappeared from hallway conversations. Students began intervening when they witnessed problematic interactions. Several teachers modified their classroom practices after receiving aggregated, anonymous feedback about unconscious bias. But as Lighthouse gained influence, those who benefited from the old system began to push back. It started with Tyler and his friends creating fake reports to try to discredit the system. Marcus had anticipated this and built in verification mechanisms that filtered out such attempts. Then came the threatening messages to students suspected of using the platform, which only generated more legitimate reports. 6 weeks after launching Lighthouse, Marcus was called to Principal Whitaker's office. The principal, a man known for prioritizing donor relationships over student concerns, sat behind his massive desk, Marcus's laptop open in front of him. "Mr. Johnson, do you know why you're here?" he asked, his voice measured but cold. "I assume it's about Lighthouse, sir," Marcus answered honestly. "Yes, your unauthorized surveillance system. Do you understand the legal liability you've created for this school? The invasion of privacy concerns?" Marcus leaned forward. "With respect, sir, it's not surveillance. It's documentation of things happening openly on school grounds, and all identities are protected." Principal Whitaker's expression hardened. "Several parents, important supporters of this school, have contacted me about their children feeling targeted. The school board is concerned." "I'd be happy to explain the system to the board," Marcus offered. "The data shows—" "This isn't about data," Whitaker interrupted. "This is about respecting authority and following proper channels. which you have circumvented entirely. I'm requiring you to shut down this platform immediately and turn over all data to the school's legal team." Marcus hesitated. "And if I don't? Then your scholarship status will need to be reconsidered. I don't think I need to explain what that would mean for your future." The threat hung in the air between them. Marcus's parents couldn't afford Pinecrest's tuition without his academic scholarship. His college plans depended on graduating from a school of Pinecrest's caliber. "I'll need to think about it," Marcus finally said. "You have 48 hours, Whitaker replied, closing the laptop with finality. That evening, as Marcus explained the situation to his parents at their small kitchen table, he expected them to tell him to comply. His future was at stake, after all. Instead, his father asked simply, "What do you believe is right, son?" "The system is helping people," Marcus answered. "If I shut it down, things will go back to how they were." His mother reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Then you already know what to do. We'll face whatever comes together." The next day, several teachers secretly expressed support for what Marcus was doing. Mr. Gonzalez, the computer science teacher, offered technical advice to make the system more secure. Miss Patterson, the English department head, shared documentation of how previous attempts to address these issues through proper channels had been systematically buried. But the pressure escalated. Tyler's father, board president Mitchell, called Marcus's parents directly. First with veiled threats about their son's future, then with offers to make this go away, if Marcus would just comply. When the 48-hour deadline arrived, Marcus walked into Principal Whitaker's office with a flash drive. "This contains a report of all patterns identified by Lighthouse, with all personal information removed," he explained. "I'm willing to work with the administration to address these issues constructively, but I won't shut down the platform or compromise the anonymity of those who've used it." Whitaker's face reddened. "This is your final decision?" "It is." The next morning, an emergency school board meeting was called. Despite having no official notice, dozens of students gathered outside the administration building in support of Marcus and Lighthouse. Inside, Marcus presented the aggregate data showing clear patterns of discriminatory behavior, both from students and staff. "This isn't about punishing individuals," he explained to the stony-faced board members. "It's about recognizing systemic problems so we can address them together." Board President Mitchell interrupted him repeatedly, questioning his methods, his motives, and his character. The few board members who seemed sympathetic remained silent under Mitchell's glare. The decision came swiftly. Marcus had violated school policy by creating an unauthorized platform using school resources. He had compromised student and staff privacy. He had undermined administrative authority. 2 days later, Marcus Johnson, honor student, coding prodigy, and creator of Lighthouse, was officially expelled from Pinecrest Academy. His college prospects seemed to evaporate overnight. The local news covered the story briefly, framing it as a cautionary tale of good intentions gone wrong. Most universities wouldn't risk admitting a student expelled for ethical violations, no matter how unjust. As he packed up his locker, Emma approached him. "They're already trying to access the platform to shut it down," she whispered. Marcus managed a small smile. "They won't be able to. The system is decentralized now. As long as students want to use it, it will keep working." "What about you, though? What will you do?" His future, once so clearly mapped out, now lay in ruins around him. Yet somehow, Marcus felt a strange sense of clarity. "I'll find another way forward," he said. "This isn't over." 2 years after his expulsion, Marcus had taken a winding path. Unable to secure admission to elite universities despite his perfect SAT scores, he'd completed his GED and taken computer science courses at a community college while working part-time at a local tech startup that specialized in content moderation tools. The skills that had gotten him expelled from high school proved valuable in the workplace. Marcus quickly rose from junior developer to leading his own small team. His experience with Lighthouse gave him insights that his colleagues, mostly graduates from prestigious universities, lacked. One night, working late, Marcus noticed something in the harassment reports flowing through their system. The patterns were strikingly similar to what he documented at Pinecrest. The same escalation tactics, the same targeting of vulnerable individuals, the same protection of those with power or status. It wasn't just a high school problem, it was a human behavior problem that scaled across platforms and contexts. Over the next 3 months, Marcus devoted his nights and weekends to developing a more sophisticated version of his original algorithm. This version could identify not just obvious harassment, but the subtle patterns that preceded it, the testing behaviors, the incremental boundary pushing, the coalition building that happened before targeted harassment campaigns exploded. When he presented his findings to the company's leadership, they were impressed but hesitant. The big platforms would never implement something this proactive, his manager explained. Their business models depend on engagement, and controversy drives engagement. Undeterred, Marcus refined his approach. He created a proposal for major social media companies, demonstrating how his system could reduce legal liability while minimally impacting user engagement. He sent it to contacts at every major platform. The rejections piled up quickly. Some were polite form letters, others were more direct. "Our current systems are adequate. This would create too many false positives. The implementation costs outweigh the benefits." One senior executive was brutally honest in a private meeting. "Look, kid, it's a nice idea, but we're not in the business of making the internet a better place. We're in the business of capturing user attention and serving ads. Your system might be right, but it's economically wrong for us." Marcus left that meeting with a new understanding. The companies wouldn't change from within. The pressure would have to come from outside. In a bold move that his coworkers called career suicide, Marcus simplified his algorithm and released it as an open-source browser extension called Lightkeeper. Anyone could install it to identify potentially harmful content and patterns of harassment on major platforms. It couldn't prevent everything, but it gave users tools to understand and navigate increasingly toxic online spaces. For the first month, Lightkeeper had only a few thousand users. Then a coordinated harassment campaign targeted a female gaming journalist, and users with the extension were able to identify and avoid the worst of the manipulation tactics. The journalist wrote about the tool, and installations skyrocketed. Major tech platforms responded predictably, first by ignoring Lightkeeper, then by attempting to block it, and finally by trying to discredit both the tool and Marcus himself. His name was dragged through tech forums, with commenters questioning his qualifications and motivations. The breaking point came when internal documents from one of the platforms leaked, revealing that their own engineers had concluded that Marcus's approach was valid and effective, but had been overruled by executives concerned about engagement metrics. Independent researchers at prestigious universities began testing Lightkeeper against existing content moderation systems. Their conclusion? Marcus's tool outperformed corporate solutions by identifying harmful patterns earlier and with fewer false positives. As user numbers crossed 5 million, the narrative began to shift. What had been dismissed as a naive solution created by a disgruntled ex-student was now being recognized as a significant innovation in online safety. Marcus Johnson, once an expelled high school student with seemingly no future, had become an unexpected authority on creating healthier online communities. Yet, success came with a price. The more effective Lightkeeper became, the more forcefully those benefiting from the status quo fought against it. And Marcus was about to face his most significant challenge yet: a congressional hearing where both his tool and his character would be put on trial before the entire nation. 5 years later, the 3 black SUVs pulled away from Marcus's apartment building. Inside, Marcus sat across from the CEOs of 3 of the world's largest tech platforms, the same executives who had once dismissed his ideas and attacked his credibility. "Let me see if I understand," Marcus said, swirling the coffee in his mug. "User engagement is down 30% across your platforms. People are migrating to smaller, community-focused networks, and you think I can help you reverse that trend?" The man who had once called Marcus's work economically unviable nodded stiffly. "The Digital Safety Act requirements are part of it, but it's more than that. Users want the experience that your company provides, real connection without the toxicity. We're losing the next generation of users entirely." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. His company, Lighthouse Technologies, now employed over 200 people dedicated to creating safer online spaces. They worked with platforms that shared their values, helping them grow while maintaining healthy communities. What you're asking would require complete restructuring of your recommendation systems, your content policies, your entire approach to user experiences, Marcus explained. "It's not a quick fix." "We understand that," another CEO replied. "We're prepared to make significant changes." Marcus set down his cup. "I appreciate you coming in person. My team will review your proposals and get back to you next week." After they left, Marcus opened his laptop and smiled at the notification that had just appeared. The first recipients of the Lighthouse Scholarship had been announced. 20 students from across the country who had demonstrated exceptional moral courage in addressing injustice in their communities would receive full college scholarships. Across town, former Principal Whitaker watched the news coverage of Marcus Johnson being named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. The segment included footage from Pinecrest Academy, where the current administration had implemented a student advocacy system based directly on Marcus's original Lighthouse platform. The reporter noted that incidents of bullying had decreased by 60% since its implementation. Whitaker switched off the television, a complex mixture of regret and pride washing over him. He had been wrong about Marcus Johnson, but the young man's work had ultimately transformed not just Pinecrest, but digital communities worldwide. In a classroom at Pinecrest Academy, a shy freshman named Sophia activated the school's reporting system to document patterns of exclusion affecting students with disabilities. The platform, now officially called Lighthouse, had become a model for schools nationwide. Sophia didn't know all the details of Marcus Johnson's story, but she knew that because of him, her voice mattered. The system would not ignore her concerns. That evening, Marcus received an email from Emma with the subject line, "Full Circle." She had attached an article about Sophia's initiative at Pinecrest and the positive administrative response. Marcus read it with a growing sense of peace. His path had been neither straight nor easy, but standing for what was right, even at great personal cost, had created ripples that continued to expand outward, touching lives he would never even know. Sometimes, he reflected, the most important victories weren't the ones that made headlines, like testifying before Congress or building a successful company. Sometimes they were as simple as a single student feeling empowered to speak up, knowing they would be heard, in a system that was designed to care. And that was worth everything he had sacrificed along the way. Love this story? Hit that like button and subscribe to In the Heartlight for more. Don't forget to check out the video currently on your screen. You won't want to miss it. See you in the next one.